What is going on, everybody? It is NexusComplex, and we are back again with another RPL Season 2 Team Breakdown, and today we are breaking down the Bayern Munchlax. This is an important game. Their team is pretty good. I feel like I say that about every team, but I mean, like, that's the thing about Pokemon, is like any team could be good, you know, unless you just draft like Caterpies and Weedles and shit. I'm sure somebody like Pip Knight or Garbodors or somebody would make that shit work. But anyways, all of that aside, we're gonna break down this team, and this team has got so much offensive presence. Like, I'm honestly surprised that their record is as bad as they are, because this team is good, man. I didn't realize how good this team was. So you're looking with the first pick that they took Toxapex. Toxapex is one of the staples of defensive gameplay right now. I mean, it's got Baneful Bunker, which poisons you if you make contact on the turn that it uses it. Obviously, it's got Toxic Spikes, Toxic, the ability Merciless. It gets stabbed with Liquidation, Poison Jab, and the thing's defense is ridiculously high. So, Toxapex is really tough to take down. Also, coupled in the fact that it gets Regenerator as another ability, so its longevity is very, very good. If you don't throw Toxapex out there just to die, which almost no Toxapex user does, it's going to be a bad time for your opponent. The thing about Toxapex is it's very good defensively, but it is also good enough offensively where you have to be aware of it. And it gets Scald too. The thing about Scald is Scald has a very good chance to burn. It's one of those moves that I feel like always burns me quicker than it does the opponent. But a 30% chance is pretty good. And once you burn a physical attacker, it's all but done. So if Toxapex can do that against some physical attackers that know like Earthquake, then it's really hard to get rid of Toxapex. Next up is Venusaur. Venusaur is a pretty good Pokemon on its own, but its hidden ability, which has been released recently with Pokemon Home, is Chlorophyll, which makes its speed double in sunlight. That's a pretty good ability if you can get Sun Up. And luckily for Finky, who is the coach of the Bayern Munchlax, and I say luckily, but I mean, I'm pretty sure he intended it to work this way. I mean, like, that's generally how you draft the team. He has Torkoal, who has the ability Drought, which sets Sun as soon as it comes in, so your Venusaur can get the Sun, and then it's already bulky. Now it's got really good speed, good special attack. It's just going to be launching Sludge Bombs. It can do Solar Beams whenever it wants. Venusaur could be a problem, especially with Sun Up. Without Sun, Venusaur is still a really good Pokemon, and you'll need to plan accordingly to get rid of it. Corviknight, who happens to be on my team, is actually a decent counter for it. But if that Sun lights up, anything could happen, because Weather Ball is also a thing that is generally carried to counter Corviknight, because Corviknight's such a good counter for it. And I mean, it also counters other steel types, because Weather Ball in the Sun becomes a fire type attack. And it also doubles, if I'm not mistaken. So Venusaur is an issue. If it gets Sun Up, it could be a big deal come game time. Next up is a Pokemon that I did not know was getting such good usage and had such good just offensive presence this generation. That's Weavile. Weavile is fast at 125 base speed. There's very few Pokemon that just straight up outspeed Weavile naturally. Couple that in with like 120 attack, Weavile moves fast and hits hard. It's Dark type, so it gets Stab Knockoff, so you can just spam Knockoff if you'd like. It crushes Pokemon, and the ones that do live it don't have their item anymore. Then you got Priority Ice Shard, which is also Stab. Icicle Crash, which hits very hard, and then you can add another move for utility if you want to. You can do Fake Outs, hit stuff. Weavile is an issue, because nothing on my team outspeeds it. So if I cannot catch Weavile in a bad switch-in or a very good call, we probably won't kill it, and it'll probably kill a lot of Pokemon. There's a reason it's one of the top kill leaders in the league right now. So, gotta pay attention to Weavile. And even if we do, it's still got really good tight matchups against a lot of our team. I didn't realize how weak our team was to Dark and Ice until I was trying to plan for a Weavile, and I was just like, I got nothing. I guess we'll die. We're just gonna go down with the ship, baby. Just throw that Delmice to my feet and let me drop into the water. Delmice is also a bad matchup for Weavile too, just in case you guys didn't understand type matchups. So, next up is Haxorus, who is another fast, pretty good physical attacker. And when I say pretty good, I actually mean outstanding. Haxorus is one of the premier physical attackers in the game. Its attack stat is ridiculous. Its speed is 97, which is really good on its own. And basically, if you don't put Haxorus in a bad situation, it's going to kill a lot of things. You need to have some fairies around. And even if you do have the fairies around, there's still no chance that you kill it. Because it's got a pretty good move pool. It can do Crunch, Earthquake, Close Combat, Iron Tail. It's got the moves to make up for the attack. And if you throw a Choice Band or a Choice Scarf on it, oh my gosh. So many problems. So, man, I am just bumming myself out on this breakdown this week. Holy crap. It's like a pretty good team. I don't know how they're lower on the table. I think he's got a pretty good team, man. Next up is Torkoal, who, as I've spoke about earlier, can set Drought for Venusaur, is a really good special attacker in its own right. It can also Rapid Spin. It's a sneaky good Pokemon. If you get Torkoal on its own, isn't great, but in the right team, Torkoal can be so good. It can just cover a lot of things. It's got adequate defense, good special attack. Its speed is horrible, but you're not putting Torkoal out there to outspeed things. Yeah, so Torkoal has 140 base defense, so good luck trying to break through that with anything that's not super effective. Its special defense is fine. Its speed is 20, but it's a fire tortoise. Its attacks are both 85, so it's, you know, it's not bad, but just what it can do with the right matchups and in Sun with like Eruption and things like that, it's just, Torkoal also causes problems. And the synergy with Venusaur and another Pokemon on the team, Heliolisk, is just so good. It works out so well. So Heliolisk also works on Sun teams. It gets Solar Power. So Solar Power, for the most part, is getting used a lot with Charizard that I've been seeing. But obviously it works the same way. It's basically like, it's like a souped up Life Orb. So it's 1.5 times attack for the 1/8 of your HP every time. But Heliolisk is a really good special attacker with 109 special attack and 109 speed. It's kind of frail with only 52 defense, but with that type of speed and that type of special attack, I mean, chances are, especially in the Sun, you're going to take down one thing with you when you use it. And it just complements Venusaur and Torkoal so well. Like, that's nice synergy. You've got your Grass Poison, your Fire, and then your Electric. Like, those all work pretty well, so you can cover a lot of things. And, you know, on a Sun team, you'd think, oh yeah, I'll use some water against it. Well, you can't really when you got Venusaur and Heliolisk on the other side. So you really have to reevaluate what you're doing. So those 6 Pokemon right there, just that alone, I think I would have a lot of difficulty trying to beat with my team. And we still got 4 more Pokemon to go, and they're not bad Pokemon either. So next is Decidueye, who's Grass Ghost. Decidueye, not as premier of a threat as some of the other Pokemon we've talked about thus far, but since it's a starter, it's got pretty good stats all the way around with 107 attack, 100 special attack, 100 special defense. Its HP, speed, and defenses aren't great, but it's good, and that Grass Ghost typing is not terrible. And the cool thing about Decidueye, the ability's not great, but it's beneficial in certain situations, is it has the ability Long Reach. So it can use its moves without actually touching the target. So things like Rocky Helmet, or if you do like a Shell Trap or some type of move like that, Decidueye is not going to, it doesn't happen to Decidueye because it's an archer. So it shoots things with its spectral arrows. Holy shit, it's like every Skyrim character I've ever played. Oh. And I guess that's going to get released again now on PS5 too, right? Because Bethesda just loves releasing Skyrim. Next Pokemon is Arctozolt. Not the fastest Pokemon, not the strongest Pokemon, but it has the move Bolt Beak. And that can cause issues. Obviously, Bolt Beak is kind of like Fish's Rend. If it goes first, the power is doubled. It is, I believe, 85 base power. So if it gets doubled, that is 170 base attack stab that's coming at you. But it has to go first. The good thing about Arctozolt is it's only 55 speed. So even with a Choice Scarf, it's still not the fastest thing out there. So you might need to get a Tailwind or something up. But basically, if Arctozolt is on the other team, you might not want to switch in or switch out, because that Bolt Beak is probably going to kill whatever comes in unless it's immune to it. The other thing about Arctozolt is it's not always going to be physical, it can be special. And I know that because I use Dracozolt, and their stats are a little bit different, but they're very comparable. So you also have to pay attention to Arctozolt throwing out some Freeze Dries, some Thunderbolts, Blizzards, things like that. But it's just a very good mixed attacker. It gets a lot of good moves. And thank gosh, basically, it's got 55 speed, because if it was any faster, it would probably kill almost everything in the Pokemon world. It is a very fierce fighter, even though it is frozen to death because the scientists in Galar are awful people and they cannot put fossils together. And I know that this is all embedded in history. It's still just... Look at that poor thing. It's got a huge frozen snot bubble. You can't not feel bad for that thing. Next up is Claydol. Claydol is generally used for rapid spin and support, but it doesn't just have to do that. With pretty good typing of Ground Psychic, Claydol can rapid spin, it can Earthquake, it can do Psychic. But one thing that I've seen and I've done myself is I've used it as a Kamikaze Stealth Rock lead. So you set rocks, you hold a normal gem, you use Explosion, and then you watch something probably die. It's crazy that it works. It's got the same attack stat as a special attack, so it can go either direction in terms of attack. It's got a pretty mixed move pool, so it can use either pretty well. It gets Grass Knot, so it's a decent sneaky counter to Seismitoad and Barbaracle and Gastrodon. Jesus. Anyways. It's a fairly good Pokemon. It's lower in the tier because it's kind of limited in the things it can do, but it could definitely punch a big hole in a team if you're not expecting it. And last but not least, it is the toothpaste unicorn Rapidash Galarian form. Galarian Rapidash is fairly decent. It's got the same stats as its Cantonian counterpart. Obviously the typing changes. It goes from Fire to Psychic Fairy. The one thing that kind of sucks for Galarian Rapidash is its attack is 20 points higher than its special attack. And while there are some physical moves, Psychic and Fairy to me seem to lean more towards the special side. But Game Freak did right by Galarian Rapidash. It gave it a pretty good move pool to go with that decent attack stat. So it learns Throat Chop, High Horsepower, Play Rough, Drill Run, Wild Charge, Zen Headbutt, Iron Tail, Mega Horn, Body Slam. It's got good moves. It can also learn Smart Strike if it wants that steel coverage for whatever reason, and really like perfect accuracy. Psycho Cut, it can use Bounce. Like Galarian Rabadash's move pool is pretty expansive. It's got really good speed at 105 and 100 attack. It can use the attack moves that it has fairly effectively. So, after looking at the team, I'm actually very scared of this team. It's got really good threats all across the board. The one thing I will say is that in terms of its bulk, it's not the bulkiest team. Toxapex is really the only Pokemon I look at and go, oh wow, it's super bulky. So I would say this is our offensive team. If I cannot match the offensive presence of the Bayern Munchlax, I will lose this game this week. I am super confident in that. If I cannot keep up the offensive presence that they will, I'm going to lose. I don't think my Pokemon, even though I have some bulk, are going to be able to stand up to some of these attackers. I mean, Weavile and Haxorus are quick and they smash. They just smash walls up. That's what they do. They're wall breakers. And then if you do get past them, or for whatever reason something happens, if Torkoal can set up a drought and then Venusaur or Heliolisk can get in there, it can cause a lot of issues. If I had to choose the team that is coming, I would say Torkoal, Venusaur, and Heliolisk, because they just work so well together. They're a great trio. Weavile, just because that Ice Dark is really hard. There's nothing that really resists Weavile. And even if it does, losing your item is kind of a crippling thing. Haxorus is just really good as an offensive attacking dragon. And then, like I said, Toxapex is really the only defensive Pokemon on the team that would really cause issues. And it could set spikes and everything like that. So I would go Toxapex, Venusaur, Weavile, Haxorus, Torkoal, and Heliolisk. Just take your top 6 threats, and I think you can do whatever. Because Torkoal can Rapid Spin for you, so you don't really need Claydol. He also sets Sun, so Torkoal does more for you from a team standpoint. Arctozolt, I don't think is going to have a chance to really get off bulk beaks here. And you've already got Ice coverage and Weavile. Galarian Rapidash is fast. Although my team's not that weak to Fairy, I do have Drampa and Hydreigon. But I think you have enough presence with Haxorus and Weavile to deal with those two. I could maybe see Decidueye depending on the situation. But I'm fairly confident that at least 4 of those 6 I named are going to be there. And I wouldn't be surprised if all 6 are there. So it's going to be a tough week. It's going to be a tough week. Alright, so the Bayern Munchlax bring Torkoal, Toxapex, Venusaur, Weavile, Heliolisk, and Decidueye. So the only Pokemon I was wrong on is I was expecting Haxorus. Decidueye comes instead. We start off Salazzle, they start off Decidueye. Good matchup for me. Out comes Toxapex. I kind of expected that, so I just went knockoff, play it safe. Then I hit Toxic on Toxapex. I want to try to limit its longevity as much as I can, even though I'm like 90% sure it has Regenerator. So now I've done what I need to do. I get out. It sucks I lost my Black Sludge, but such is life. Corviknight takes his Scald very well. Did not get burnt, so best turn we could do here. I don't know what the hell I was doing with this set. I don't know why I was using Agility and what purpose it served. Maybe trying to outspeed Weavile and hit it with a Body Press is the only thing I could think of. But that was still a lame plan that probably would not have worked. Switch into Drampa here. He gets burned. Out comes Toxapex. We go Glare, which sucks. It's already poisoned. So Drampa had some decent moves on it. It's got really good special attack. That being said, Toxapex still takes that Thunderbolt very well. Now we lost our leftovers, so Drampa's longevity is starting to suffer. But we're making that Toxapex have to switch in and out. We get the Roost. Decidueye, you know, Ghost type, so can only do so much. The U-turn hits pretty hard for what was going on. Another bad glare prediction. As Helios comes in, it cannot be paralyzed because it's electric type. So Drampa's going to get out of there. It's not looking good. Dragon Pulse. Salazzle takes it decently well. But this turn was a huge game changer. This overheat, I think, would have killed Heliolisk in the sun. So that miss was pretty big. Heliolisk would have been off the board. So now comes Decidueye. We've lost Salazzle. Decidueye's got pretty good rain right now. So Hydreigon's going to come in. Just start dark pulsing the world. Just going to cover the world in darkness. It's doing pretty good damage to the Pokemon. Just kind of good general damage. Hits Torkoal really hard. Gets the sun up though, so that's causing problems. We're able to get rid of Torkoal, so it's a 5-on-5 game, but our team's a little bit more beat up than Bayern at this point. Back out comes Heliolisk. I probably should have just stayed in, but I was afraid of the U-turn. But I don't think it gets U-turn. I don't know what I was thinking. I should have just stayed in. We traced Solar Power, which wasn't the best at the moment. So now we go Corviknight. I'm not sure if it was just a really good predict or just like an easy button press, but here comes the Weather Ball. It absolutely obliterates Corviknight. It was a crit. I'm not sure how much that mattered. We get Chlorophyll. We're trying to scare Venusaur out. But in comes Weavile, which isn't great because it eats a Psychic because it's immune to it. And it's easily going to kill Gardevoir if it gets to touch it. So the only thing we got is Hitmonlee. It resists it, but it still did 58% damage. That's a lot. Obviously it switches out. I don't know why I tried to Bullet Punch. I don't know what world Weavile would have stayed in there. I should have just EQ'd. I get out. Trying to heal Gardevoir up a little bit by tracing Regenerator. But now I lose my leftovers. So this knockoff by Toxapex is really just crippling my team in terms of items. That U-turn just, oh, that hurt so bad. Flamethrower, I don't know what, I don't know why. Why would you Flamethrower? You should have just Dark Pulse. Like, I don't understand it. Getting Regenerator again with Gardevoir. Another knockoff. At this point, I'm not even sure if any of my Pokemon have items at this point. I think Hydreigon's the only one that does. I was predicting a switch, so I go Moonblast. Sucks because now we're toxic. We could have easily killed with a Psychic and maybe had a little bit more life, but at this point, we're kind of just beaten up. We get rid of Toxapex, but at this point, Weavile can pretty much sweep. Like I said, Weavile is one of the top killers in the league thus far, and this game just added to its body count. It's going to rack up 4 more kills. Because at this point, you can just Icicle Crash and everything's going to die. Nothing is really going to live. This Gardevoir was max special, max defense with leftovers and max HP. It lives here, hits the Moonblast. The Weavile is sashed. So that's it. Gardevoir dies from the Toxic. And next is Hydreigon, which obviously dies from the Icicle Crash. So that's it. That's another loss on the board for the New York Nidokings. We are now 1-4 since week 3. It's not been a good time. We're 1-4. We got 3 games left. We're playing the Majestic Gardevoirs in our next game this week. And that coach won the league last year. That's a really good team. They're at the top of the table right now. I think they've only lost 1 game. So I've got to start looking at the team. I got to start making some moves. I got to figure some things out. The team, I don't think is bad. There's been a bunch of games where I have not played as well as I should have or am capable of playing. But I'm not gonna put that on as the reason like we're doing poorly. It's just things aren't working, so I got to make some changes. I got 2 roster moves to make, so we will figure that out. But anyways, thank you for the support of the New York Nidokings or just the Reasonable Pokemon League. Whatever reason you're watching this video, I appreciate it. I appreciate you. I hope you lovely people have a great day. This is NexusComplex, and I will see you guys on the next one.